Sounds good.
Okay, go ahead,
Thanks,
Scott.
Angie. All right. Thanks, Angie. Thanks for attending today, everyone. We're excited to have Darren Hawley and Justin Sharp from Cincinnati Life to go over an interesting product and program that they have for businesses and employees. Darren Hawley is our RVP slash Life Field Director. Darren, I'm not sure if which title you like to go by. Justin will be, I think, conducting most of the meeting today, and he is the director of life marketing at Cincinnati Life. And like I said, this is a worksite program that they have to benefit employees of businesses. And again, I don't want to steal your thunder because you guys know it a lot better than I do. So with that, thank you both for attending today, and we appreciate you being here and letting our agents know about this awesome program that you have. So take it away.
Definitely. Thanks, Scott. I appreciate the time. I'm not going to talk a lot. I'm going to let Justin do a lot of that. I just want to say thank you for your guys' partnership with Cincinnati Life as Producers Excel. A long-standing history of a brokerage. I remember back when I first got my insurance license, Angie did one of my continuing ed credits back, I think it's 2000 or 99, something like that. So I know a lot of quality, a lot of long-standing traditions of doing business the right way, and that's what we really care about moving forward as well. We're excited about our worksite program. It's been around quite a few years. A lot of opportunity for additional revenue, for additional prospects, for additional prospecting. So I think there's a lot of exciting things. I tell people all the time, I was on the individual side of the business when I produced, but if I was ever to get back into production, worksite is where I would start because it has so much opportunity moving forward. With us today is Justin Sharp. He is worked directly with BGAs throughout the country for Cincinnati Life and is our BGA expert, especially when it comes to worksite as well. So I will let Justin take over from there. Thanks, Justin, for joining us today.
Yeah, no, thank you, Darren. Thank you, Producers XL. Thank you everyone who's jumping on the morning of the Wednesday morning before a long 4th of July weekend. Hopefully everything that we covered today is exciting, informational, and something that you can kind of put to your everyday prowess. So I'm going to share my screen here in a second, but I just wanted to kind of let you know what's on tap and what we're going to go through. So we are gonna give you a little bit of history about Cincinnati Life, some of our distribution channels, where our worksite voluntary life program kind of got its start. And then we're going to kind of go over voluntary benefits, the need, the differential between group plans, kind of what the nitty gritty of this program is, and kind of how we can implement it. So, we hopefully won't take up too much of your time this morning, but hopefully everything that we kind of go over will be good. So Cincinnati Life, and I guess I'll go back. Bear with me. Cincinnati Life, we are a part of a much broader property casualty organization based out of Fairfield, Ohio, which is just north of Cincinnati. Primarily, the Cincinnati insurance companies market commercial lines, personal lines, home and auto, excess and surplus, our life insurance division through the independent agent channel, whether that is a life brokerage such as Producers XL, or an independent property casualty agency. So with that being said, a lot of our opportunities at Cincinnati come from that commercial lines producer, that employee benefits producer, that are working hand in hand with business owners to ensure their business, but also to implement employee benefits such as major medical, dental, ancillaries, all of that. So this program was kind of created about 45 years ago. So we've been in the business a long time within this voluntary kind of channel. With that being said, from its inception to now, there's been a lot of kind of upgrades, modifications, and kind of where we, kind of how we can tailor it. So before I jump into it, regardless of what type of producer you are, if you're a commercial lines producer, a home and auto producer, an employee benefits producer, as I go through this, think about the groups that you work with, okay? Think about the groups that maybe you've talked to the business owner about their business continuation, their buy-sell coverage. Maybe there's an opportunity for their employees. Maybe it's a group that you've offered benefits to from the get-go. Kind of think about the groups you work with. And as we kind of talk about this, the guidelines, the qualifications, the types of groups, the types of industries that we see a lot of success in, hopefully it will put turn a couple light bulbs on for you. So, you know, our worksite program, it is very simple. Like I mentioned, you know, we have our life brokerage distribution and our property casualty distribution. This program is easy to market. It's very cut and dry, very black and white. It is designed for the agent or the enroller, whoever's at the group, to go and speak to these employees about the benefit of life insurance, the need for guaranteed issue coverage, and the pros of having an individual portable payroll deducted life insurance policy at the workplace. It's meant for the employee to easily see what's being offered, and to sign up for coverage. The benefit of Cincinnati, you know, we'll get into it a little bit more, but this program is guaranteed issue, okay? I cannot stress that enough. When I talk about guaranteed issue coverage, okay, on our application for this program, there are no health questions, okay? There are 2 questions that we ask an individual, an employee, in that guaranteed issue space. The first is if they work 20 hours or more a week, okay? That is what we consider a full-time employee, and that is what makes the employee and their family eligible for this program, okay? The second question is if they've smoked cigarettes or e-cigarettes in the last 12 months, okay? That's not a knockout question. The rates are unisex, and they're smoker, non-smoker, which I'll get into in a little bit. If they've smoked cigarettes in the last 12 months, great. We'll show them smoking rates. But besides that, the application truly is your demographics, your address, your phone number, your date of birth. What plan do you want? What face amount do you want? And who do you want to leave this to in case something happens to you? Who do you want your beneficiary to be? That's all we ask. So when we talk about guaranteed issue, it's truly guaranteed issue. Also, one of the big proponents of Cincinnati's worksite portfolio is about 92% of the time, this program is paid for via employee payroll deduction, okay? So kind of going back to making this easy for the employees to understand, when we're meeting with those employees beforehand, we know what their pay frequency is. So if they're paid weekly, bi-weekly, semi-monthly, monthly, we have those numbers and we can show them exactly what is going to be taken out of their paycheck at time of sign up. So there's no questions, there's no surprises once the billing goes into effect. I also think that's important because in the ever-changing employee benefits field, you know, as major medical continues to increase in cost, as carriers keep cutting back on benefits, you know, this is a voluntary benefit that you're able to offer the groups that you work with at really no cost to them. You know, besides them deducting the payroll and letting somebody come in and speak to their employees, there's really no cost to them. Like I said, about 90% of the time, this program is paid for via employee payroll deduction. The business can certainly include premiums if they, you know, or deduction if they want to add, you know, a couple dollars a week, or there's employer contribution. Certainly we can do that, but that's definitely not the norm. So this is an easy way to kind of increase a business's benefit offerings without really affecting their bottom line. So everyday life insurance. I know the folks at Producers Excel know it. I know you know it. Us at Cincinnati know it. There's a large swath of the American public that are uninsurable. And individuals who have health conditions, it makes it difficult for them to obtain life insurance. And so when I say, I've talked about guaranteed issue, besides those two questions I mentioned, we don't ask anything else. So if someone has an underlying condition that makes them uninsurable, they can still get up to their guaranteed issue guidelines, the face amounts that are eligible and available for their age, which I'll get to that in a couple slides. We also know that going through the full traditional life insurance process, sometimes it can be time consuming. And we, especially in this day and age of APSs, we all know, we all have those horror stories about APSs coming back, taking 3-4 months to get those from the doctor's office. The nice thing about this program is because it's guaranteed issue and an underwriter doesn't have to approve it, in that arena, these policies are in effect the day that they sign the application, okay? Before any premium is taken from their payroll, guaranteed issue, it's in force the day that they sign the application, okay? I already mentioned it, but in the ever-changing employee benefit space, employers are always looking for additional benefits to add to their portfolio. This is a great, easy option that can be added. And, this is a nice, we all do this for a job. We all do this to help people. But it's a nice revenue stream for your agency as well. Cincinnati, the first year commissions on this policy are much more similar to a first year ordinary commission, opposed to a group policy, to some of those ancillary critical care cases that you may be familiar with and things like that. So, getting a couple of these under your belt could be a nice revenue stream for you and your agency. So let's kind of go into the features of the program. So guaranteed issue amounts are available to all employees, okay? At time of first enrollment and at subsequent re-enrollments as well, okay? We do offer perpetual guaranteed issue at first enrollment and at each re-enrollment, okay? Cincinnati does not have any participation requirements. I know that there are some carriers who have participation requirements and they require, 10%, 15% of the employees to take out coverage, or they're going to take that guaranteed issue away. In a smaller group size, if one person takes out coverage, we're going to honor that guaranteed issue. Okay. What Cincinnati does is we sort of underwrite the group on the front end. So there's an intake form, and I'm not going to get too far into the weeds of it because it's talks about each case by case. Okay. But what we're going to do is there are questions on that intake form, on the case qualifier, that are essentially going to give us the green light, the yellow light, or the red light to move forward. The first is group size, okay? We require groups of 15 employees or more that work 20 hours or more a week, okay? So that is sort of our bottom line, is that 15 threshold, okay? On that intake form, what we're going to look for are, the main things are we going to be able to have access to every employee, okay? Cincinnati requires one-on-one enrollment conditions with every employee. So what we want to see is we want an application or a waiver of participation from every employee that's eligible for the program, okay? Typically, with that being said, okay, we get about 30% participation, okay? So typically that participation requirement isn't an issue, but if it's done correctly, we do all of the vetting on the front end. Typically, we're in the high 20s, low 30s as far as participation goes. And that's kind of the do-it-yourself model. And I'll get into kind of what Cincinnati can offer as well when we get there. These policies are individually owned. So if the employee takes out a policy on themselves, their spouse, their children, the employee owns all three of those policies. They're individually owned, and they're also portable. So if that employee ever leaves, they retire, they terminate, they can take them with them. Unlike some group coverage, some other voluntary benefits, if they leave that place of employment, the benefit does not change. The face amount of that policy is level. They're level products, just like our ordinary portfolio. The only difference is, instead of that premium being deducted bi-weekly, semi-monthly, they're going to pay Cincinnati directly, and whether that's a monthly mode or et cetera, et cetera. So that's really the only difference. I already kind of touched on kind of what our rates look like, but they are unisex rates and they are smoker, non-smoker. Okay. If you're familiar with Cincinnati, if you've written ordinary products with us, then you know our stance on non-cigarette tobacco. Individuals who dip, chew, smoke cigars, smoke pipes are all considered non-smokers at Cincinnati, whether it's through our ordinary portfolio or through this worksite chassis. Okay. And when we get into what industries this really excels in, think of that blue collar sect where maybe a lot of those employees dip or chew. They would be considered non-smokers with Cincinnati. The product portfolio pretty much mirrors our ordinary as well. There's 10 and 20-year level term, 20-year return of premium term, and guaranteed whole life out to 121, either on a pay to 100 chassis or paid up at age 65. I already mentioned it. The benefits don't decrease. They're all level products. And I already touched on the commissions as well. So just kind of, worksite versus traditional, and what does that look like? So guaranteed issue, there's no medical questions. There's no medical exams. We're not ordering an APS. We're getting the application, we're inputting it in the file, and we're issuing the policy. Okay. There is a simplified issue component to this program. Okay. It's going to make more sense on the next slide. But our simplified issue essentially is someone applying over that guaranteed issue threshold. We are going to ask 5-year medical history of your pretty generic health ailments, diabetes, cancer, have you been hospitalized, all of that. There is really no knockout question still in this program. What we're looking for are buzzwords. So, if someone said, yes, I have hypertension, but it's controlled by 1 time a day medication. Those are the things we're looking for. In that simplified issue arena, we can typically write someone up to about a substandard table 4, table 6, depending on what that health history looks like. So I typically like to say maybe if they have 1 moderate or 2 to 3 minor ailments, we can get them through no problem. With that, the comparison I already mentioned, that traditional underwriting, typically we're asking that full medical history. Cincinnati's application packet's only 4 pages, but some carriers 12, 16 pages of that health history. There's going to be a medical exam, most likely, blood, urine tests, and then the APS. So we know that, that could be a week, that could be 2, it could be 3. So, just kind of the immediate nature versus kind of what that traditional process looks like. Okay, so here's let's get into the nitty-gritty. So this is what's available to the employee. Okay, so you can see in my green columns, it is those guaranteed issue amounts are kind of broken out by age band. So employees between 18 and 50 are eligible for $100,000 of guaranteed issue coverage, no questions asked. 51 to 60 is $75,000, and 61 to 70 is $25,000. We cannot write individuals through our worksite plan older than age 70. So age 71 and up would unfortunately have to go through our full underwriting process. Okay. So going back to that simplified issue kind of question, say you're talking to a 35-year-old and they need more than $100,000 of life insurance. We can write up to $200,000 of death benefit on an individual through this program. Okay. Anything over those guaranteed issue guidelines would include that simplified issue kind of threshold that I just mentioned. Okay. So what happens if an individual, you send them through simplified issue? What happens if an underwriter reviews it and we aren't able to offer the simplified issue amount? Really no problem. We are never going to take away the guaranteed issue available to the employee if they apply for simplified issue. So say in that same scenario, 35-year-old says, you know what, let's try for 200, has XYZ going on. An underwriter will review that, okay? And they're either going to say yes or no. So it's not like you're going to get additional rating. It's either yes or no. Yes, great. No, Mr. Mrs. Agent, you know, John Smith applied for 200. Unfortunately, we can't do 200, but do, you know, per his age, they're eligible for 100,000. Are you okay for us to issue? So we will always go back and re-grant that guaranteed issue guideline amount. We're never going to take that away. And last I heard, about, I think about 92% of simplified issue cases that were coming into headquarters were being approved and issued. So just something to think about. Guaranteed issue is also available for spouses. Okay. There are some caveats in this section. Okay. For a spouse to qualify for guaranteed issue coverage, they have to be between the ages of 18 and 60, and they have to work 20 hours or more outside the home. Okay. Yes, we know that stay-at-home spouses, that is a full-time job. No ill will on that, but we had to include those parameters a couple years ago because we found out that we were writing guaranteed issue coverage on a lot of disabled spouses. So with that being said, the employee does not need to participate in order to purchase coverage on their spouse, which is huge. If the employee, so say it's me, I'm the employee, and I'm good. I have enough coverage. My wife is between 18 and 60, and she works 20 hours or more outside the home. My wife is eligible for 15,000 of whole life, guaranteed issue, no questions asked. Okay. Same scenario. I'm going to take out something on myself. It's a great idea. It's easy. It's a couple dollars a paycheck. In that scenario, my spouse is eligible for 25,000 of any product. Okay. Same thing goes for the spouse and the children. When I get to that, they can apply for more than what is on here. Okay. It's going to be simplified issue. There's going to be those same health questions. Okay. So what happens if my spouse is 61, 62? They don't work 20 hours or more outside the home. It's fine. They're still eligible for the program. We're going to include those simplified issue answers as well. So we're going to kind of be outside those guaranteed issue guidelines. So I already mentioned kind of what that product portfolio looks like. 10 and 20-year level term. We have our 20-year return of premium term. If you're not familiar with return of premium, basically, essentially, if the insured were to pass in those 20 years, their beneficiary is going to get that death benefit. If they live to the end of that 20 years, they're going to have two options. They're either going to get 80% of their base premiums back, or they can take up a reduced paid up policy from Cincinnati that goes out to the anniversary following their 99th birthday. Typically, it's about a third of the initial death benefit. And with that being said, both term and ROP are also both convertible to our whole life plan. So it's a great kind of bridge product. And a part of this program too is sort of the educational component to the employees. So, you know, typically, just like in any employee benefit arena, typically a 20 to 30 minute group session where we go over the needs of guaranteed issue, we go over what the process looks like, and we go over what products are available. So in that situation, you know, we typically say term is the most affordable, the least expensive. It's if something happens to you. Whole life is the most expensive, but it's permanent, and that's when something happens to you. And then that ROP is sort of the bridge. It's if something happens to you with that, obviously if they were to pass in the term period, but then it's also when something happens to you if they take that reduced paid up option. So, we always try to kind of keep it in a way that makes sense for the employees. And I guess before I jump into this case study, I don't want to miss talking about children because I guess there's not a slide on that. So there's a couple ways that we can cover a child, okay? The first is the children's term rider, and that's available on either the employee or the spouse's policy. It's $1 a week, and it gives all children 15 days through age 18, $10,000 of coverage, okay? So if you have 1 child, 6 children, 12 children, it's $1 a week, okay? And essentially what that does, it gives all children covered, that $10,000 of coverage out to age 25. And at that point, they can convert up to 5 times that amount. So up to $50,000 with no proof of insurability. So that's the most cost-effective way. Just like in that spouse situation, we can cover children with a standalone individual policy as well. Okay. So 15 days through age 18, we're looking at $10,000 of whole life coverage. Okay. And then I always like to mention that older segment, ages 18 to 25. If they're a full-time student, not married, and not in the military, we can do $25,000 of term or ROP for them. And that is designed to kind of offset tuition, any outstanding debt that may accrue for some of those older children. So with that being said, I'm gonna try to jump into some real life scenarios, okay? And both of these scenarios, which I really have not touched on yet, were done via Cincinnati's Click Enrollment Solutions, okay? Cincinnati has a team of about 6 professionals who all they do is go out as an extension of you to meet with these businesses and enroll on your behalf. You own the business. It's underneath your writing code. We do that. We have kind of our history. We have a pretty much a little elevated participation percentage. And I'll kind of get into that in a second. So this case study, this was a group down in Alabama. So it's a manufacturing company, and there were 90 employees eligible for this program. Okay. Our enroller went in and they signed up 50% of employees. So 50% of employees bought coverage. With that being said, they wrote $3.5 million in death benefit. A lot of what we see through this program are smaller death benefits, burial policies, final expense, small whole life. Kind of some of the advantages of Cincinnati going out and doing this is, whether you're a P&C producer, an employee benefits producer, you don't have to take any time away from your desk to go out and do this. Depending on the group size, it could take a day, it could take 2 days, 3 days, et cetera, et cetera. It generated about $25,000 in agency revenue. They wrote 2 large key employee policies on that upper management at the group. And then, you, the agent, you were still able to bring a valuable piece of coverage to their employees to strengthen the relationship, have one more piece of business in there to kind of help with retention and things like that. So it ultimately strengthened the opportunity. This is another case study of an insurance agency, just like Producers XL that represents Cincinnati. 15 employees, they got about 60% employee participation, 58. They wrote a little bit lower, $400,000 in death benefit, but still, again, about $4,000 in agency revenue generated probably for a day of work, where the producer didn't have to really do anything. Cincinnati took the time to go out, set up the enrollment, take the applications, get them issued, et cetera, et cetera. So prospects. I know I told you to kind of think about the groups that you work with in the back of your mind. And as we've kind of talked further, hopefully you've added some to the list and maybe not scratched some off. But you know, we ideally are looking for groups of 15 employees or more that work 20 hours or more a week. We do prefer W-2 employees because that gives us a better idea of who's working 20 hours or who's not working. If you have a group that is primarily 1099 employees, you know, I would say that's definitely a situation where bring it to Producers Excel and they'll get in contact with Darren or I, and we can talk about it more and see if it's a fit or things like that. Okay. You know, the group wants to enhance their benefits. And one of the big things that it seems silly, but this third bullet point that says allow employee education meetings on the clock. You know, our history and our success truly we can see is when an employer lets their employees meet with the agent or Cincinnati during work hours. Okay. You know, an employee who's coming to the manufacturing plant that they start at 6 a.m. They don't want to come at 5 a.m. to talk to somebody. They don't want to stay up their shift. They want to go home to their family or do whatever else that they do in their time. So typically, as we're setting up these groups, you know, we need to know that the buy-in from the group is there. And I think one of the big things is if you're talking to a group and you know they don't see the importance of letting us meet with everybody, or you know allowing that time on the clock, it's okay to say no and it's okay to walk away. You know, I think that's important. And I think in doing that too, it's always going to stick in the back of their mind and say, well, you know what? Darren came and talked to me about this group and maybe it wasn't the right time. And maybe it wasn't the right time then, but maybe something happened and an employee had a hardship or something happened to an employee, a family member, and they see the importance of life insurance and especially the importance of guaranteed issue life insurance. So kind of keep that in the back of your head. And then obviously they're okay with deducting the premiums. You know, I typically don't like to say this, but you know, I would say probably 94% of our cases are payroll deduction. Okay. We do have the opportunity to set up cases on monthly EFT from the employee's checking or savings account. Okay. But typically we don't have as much success doing that because you're essentially you're showing an employee their $6 biweekly deduction instead of showing them their $28 monthly EFT. It's the same premium, right? But they're able to kind of grasp the $6 a lot more than the $28. So keep that in the back of your mind. I don't like to kind of start with that, but it is available. So where do we have success? You know, I like to think the less amount of locations, the better. Okay. So, you know, 1 to 2 locations, all employees are kind of housed in the same office. So, you know, as we go through here, manufacturing, construction services, we have a lot of good history with car dealerships. You know, we get a lot of opportunities with contractors or trucking. And where we have had success with them, you know, it's harder because we're going to try to do that around a quarterly safety meeting or something like that, where everybody's in house. Because if someone, you know, in a contracting business, if everybody comes in, clocks in at 7, gets in their trucks and leaves for the day, how are you going to see those employees? You know, sometimes that's not worth it. Certainly can be done, but you know, maybe not the first 2 cases. We have a lot of success with healthcare services. Think, you know, dental offices, doctors' offices, maybe not for the doctors or dentists or medical, you know, the doctor staff, the surgeons, but for those registered nurses, the technicians, things like that. Certainly we can, you know, if there's a need for life insurance greater than what's available in this program, we can certainly talk to the doctors about their personal, their business needs as well, put them through fully underwritten, and put those cases on a list bill as well. Have them payroll deducted, but typically it's more the staff. And then, in that white collar space, insurance agencies, obviously, they understand the need, attorney offices, banks, accounting firms, all that good stuff. So, last two, I have one more slide after this, but this is our Click Enrollment team. There are actually 6. We have another that just joined, but they are spread out across the country on a geographical footprint, to essentially be an extension of your office, to talk about a group, help set it up, help schedule, and help implement, all the way to delivering that first bill. So it started about 5 years ago with Janice Brockman. Janice has been with Cincinnati, I think, 35 years. When I was the regional director in Kentucky, she was my worksite person. So Janice is great, but everybody on this team does a great job, and they are an extension of Producers Excel, then they're an extension of your office. So, next steps, hopefully, as I've talked, you've identified some prospects, or at least kind of made some notes to that. So, the next step there, it says call your life sales rep. I would definitely reach out to Producers Excel. Reach out to them, say, hey, I have some questions, or I have a group that I want to talk about it a little bit further. They can certainly get Darren and I involved. We can have those conversations, help set up additional training, answer questions, things like that. At that point, we'll if we think it's a viable group, we'll go through the checklist and let us know what the next steps are and all that good stuff. And then, that last thing, Click handles ongoing service and re-enrollments. If we do go down the route of allowing Click Enrollment Solutions to enroll the case, they do handle service, beneficiary changes, all of that stuff, and then they can handle re-enrollments going forward, although it's not kind of mandated. So, but with that's all I have this morning. I know it's a lot of information, and I will send some follow-up pieces to Producers Excel so they can send it out as a follow-up. So, some marketing pieces and things like that I've had some success with. But, that's all I have. Thank you all again for your time this morning. Hopefully I didn't run over too long, but, if anyone has any questions, I'm more than happy to take them. So.
Thanks, Justin.
Well, yeah, thank you, Justin. And big shocker here, Angie, I do have a couple quick questions. Did you want to jump in and say something first?
No, go right ahead.
Okay. So, Justin, you probably, I think you just kind of answered this. You're going to send some additional marketing pieces. And that's the one thing. I mean, there's so many aspects of this program that are black and white and easy to understand. The one thing that I think I struggle with is, because I have a terrible memory, is all of the parameters of issue age and what products are available. Is that a part of the marketing pieces that you can send that has a nice little easy to understand grid so we can explain to agents who qualifies and for what amounts, et cetera?
Yes, exactly. So what I typically send as a follow-up is it's one page, and it goes over the products and what the guaranteed issue guidelines are for the employee, spouse, child. Okay. The other one that I typically like to use, it's a front and back, and it's called Why Offer Voluntary Benefits to Your Employees. And the back has all of the guidelines that would be important for that employer. So the 15 employees. And then it has the guidelines as well for the guaranteed issue, what products are available and what riders are available too. So those are the two that I typically use.
Perfect. Okay, so another question. I don't know if I'm thinking about this the correct way, but since this is a payroll deduction, the business owner really doesn't have a lot of involvement other than allowing the agent or Cincinnati Life to come in and speak to the employees. First of all, am I correct on that?
You are correct. Yeah. Unless they are, really the only involvement, I would say probably 92% of the time, is yeah, let's implement this, get with our HR person, schedule it. They'll help everybody get involved. But no, the only way that there would be kind of more skin in the game is if they wanted to contribute, $5 a week or $6 a week to what employees were able to purchase. But we certainly don't see that, and we certainly don't require that.
Yeah, that was kind of a lead into my next question, and that is, do you ever get, and I'm not sure I would understand why the business owner would want to do that, other than, like you said, the business owner is looking to attract and retain quality employees, and providing this kind of coverage is just another strength that they're providing. Do you ever get a scenario where a business owner wants to pay the premiums on behalf of the employees as a true employee benefit, or is that even allowed?
No, we do, and it is allowed. Obviously, since all of these, it's not like group coverage where it's 23 cents to the dollar for everybody for $10,000 of coverage. Since it is age banded, obviously, what that the group would contribute is different for every employee. So we would always, tell them to make sure they're not violating any ERISA guidelines or anything like that. But we certainly have seen it. But where we see an employer contribution is, we are going to offer a standard set amount for everybody, and then whatever that purchases is what it purchases for each employee. Obviously it's going to purchase a little bit more for younger non-smokers than it would for older smokers, and then whatever the employee wants to purchase outside of that is up to them. And because this might be your next question, but the bill that ABC Group gets is going to look the same regardless if it's employer contribution or employee contribution. So it would say Justin Sharp monthly premium is $36. Okay. So then it would be up to them to break out what portion would be employee deduction or versus employer contribution. Which if Cincinnati's doing the enrollment, we can certainly break that out and things like that for them. So after the enrollment's done.
Perfect. Okay, one last question on me, and then I'll stop. On this, when it gets to the simplified issue and those additional medical questions, Scotty and I handle every single day. We handle I got a guy scenarios and medical risk that we need to vet with a carrier to see if the person's insurable or at what rate class. Do you have a department or an underwriting team that we can still make those calls to just say, hey, I've got a guy that's got XX. Do you think that they might be able to qualify for the simplified issue part of this? Or is it literally send it in, like you said earlier, send it in, apply for it, because at the worst case scenario, you can fall back down to the guaranteed issue amount? Or can we vet that on the front end by a quick verbal call?
No, you can certainly vet it just like you would with our ordinary underwriters. There are 2 underwriters that solely work on worksite. So we have it all the time. Hey, I have ABC client has XYZ. What do you think? And they'll tell you, yeah, go for it, or no, stick to the guarantee.
Perfect. Okay. I think that's all the questions I have.
I'm going to come at this from a different angle. So I want to talk to all the agents on the phone right now. And when you're looking at marketing something like this, understand from an employer perspective, right? So your first hurdle is recognize the businesses in your community that have at least 15 or more employees. Hurdle 1. From that point forward, if you can get to them and you can get them the information, the reason why an employer would consider doing something like this is their group health insurance, even though they don't have to pay 100%, their group benefits are going through the roof. So they may be having to increase the deductible, minimize what they're contributing up to the limit of the 50% of the employee only. I'm just thinking outside the box. You've got employers that are going to say, I've got to kind of stop the bleeding over here on the health risk side, the group benefit side. So therefore, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to offer, and the ERISA guidelines was exactly what I was waiting for you to talk about, Justin, because most of the time your employers will buy $50,000 worth of death benefit. So to know that you guys can actually issue up to $100,000 on a guaranteed issue for those younger folks is really, really important. I'll give you a real life story. I had a girlfriend in Kansas City, married 2 little kids, husband fell off the roof, ultimately passed away from that incident. He only had $50,000 worth of life insurance because I mean, I'm preaching to the choir when I tell you that the companies out there and the employees that you deal with are going to tell you, I don't need more life insurance. I get it through my employer. Well, what they're getting is more than likely $25,000 to $50,000 worth of life insurance. You can come in 15 or more employees, hurdle 1, and say, we can actually add you another guaranteed issue. If you want to contribute, Mr. Employer, that's fine, because we know you want to show the value that you're bringing as an employer. Or you don't have to, and it can still be payroll deduct and let the employees pay for it all, but we can give them some more life insurance benefits, because the truth of the matter is, people think they're going to get all the insurance needs they need from their employer. And we all know that's not true. So coming in, and a lot of you have already talked to me about worksite long-term care and group long-term care and all of these everybody wants guaranteed issue, because let's be honest, we're not as healthy as we once were, right? So I think the opportunity is really, really great here. We'll worry about all the technical details. Your biggest thing is go find or go visit. This is a great way for you to get a foot in the door and do some prospecting to these smaller, mid-sized businesses that are 15 or more employees. Go in, employer, I mean, life insurance on a worksite basis like this is really affordable. So it's a great way where they're feeling like they're having to hack, cut, get rid of benefits. This is a very minimal lift to go in and offer this. All you have to be able to do is say, would there be an opportunity that I could show you some guaranteed issue life insurance for your employees? Mr. Employer, you don't have to contribute anything, but if you want to offer this valuable benefit, we can talk about that as well. And it's going to help you uncover additional things. Case in point, you're in there, you're talking to the owner, might not be writing a check for any of the premium, but oh, Mr. Business Owner, you probably need some more life insurance yourself. Let's have that conversation, right? That's another sale. Mr. Employer, did you opt out of the workman's comp for your business? Great. We need to talk about disability income for you. There's another policy. Oh, and we should probably talk about business overhead expense. There's another policy. Oh, you're nearing retirement and you're getting near Medicare age. There's another policy. So group benefits is a great way, especially when you can go in and say, look, I can do 175 or 25,000 guaranteed issue so long as you have 15 or more employees. Can I offer you a solution, and can I come in and visit with you about that? Nothing more complicated than that. Foot in the door, talk about the concept. We'll worry about the details. I didn't hear him say a thing about we exclude certain industries. What it needs to be is, can you get in front of and access to all of the employees? And he's absolutely right. They have to be able to be spoken to on the clock. Because if you have to chase them around in the evenings during the summer or during the fall, everybody's going to be too busy to connect up to tell you, yes, I want this. That's why they also make you get the employee waiver for those that don't sign up, because that's good for you, fellow agents, right? Because you need to make sure that you've identified that they were offered and they refused. So I think this is fantastic. This is a wonderful opportunity. As you were talking, I was actually jotting down agents' names that aren't on our think tank call that I think should be made aware of this, because we're not just limiting this. I mean, this is something that we can offer to all of our agents. But for those of you on this think tank, what we really wanted to do was continue our conversation, right? Our Life Sales Academy was just that, to help you grow your life insurance sales. And this is a great way, just one more extra quiver in that, your arrow of benefits and solutions that you can offer that might slide you into an industry or slide you into someone that you can write sales on that you maybe never otherwise would have gotten into. So we're hoping that you found value to this. We've recorded it. We'll put it to our YouTube channel. We'll get it up on our website. You'll get a recording of it so you can re-listen to it if you feel like you've missed anything. And then as soon as Justin gets us those two pieces of paper, we'll send all of that out to you as well. But I would encourage you, you can tell there's a difference in style, right? I mean, I would go out and just start seeing how many employer groups that are 15 or more that you can visit with, because what's the worst they can say? No, thank you.
Well, and Angie, to piggyback on that same comment, a different angle to get into the business is how many agents out there have tried to write a life insurance policy on someone who's maybe even a little bit younger, under age 50, that got declined. There's your opening. Do you have a job? Where do you work? What kind of business do you work in? Oh, you have 27 employees? Now all of a sudden that agent has an in to a business that they otherwise didn't have. And all that really sparked it was they tried to write a $250,000 20-year term on a 35-year-old guy that got declined. So now you have a guaranteed option for that employee, but now you have the option to go in and actually build a relationship with an actual business. And it's just opportunity explosion is what it is. And again, you can come at it from two different angles. Who have I written in the last 5 years that got declined that's maybe under that 50 that we don't have guaranteed issue or simplified issue options? And you come in at that angle, or you start at what businesses do I already have a relationship with? So it's kind of a twofold thing.
Yeah. Darren, you know me. Justin, you don't know me very well, but everybody else on the phone is going to be like, of course, Angie wouldn't let the conversation die without asking this. Do you offer a living benefit acceleration of the life insurance benefit that could be put on a rider onto these benefits?
That's a great question. And yes, our worksite program has the same accelerated benefit rider that our ordinary portfolio has. So there's a terminal illness trigger, 90 days or longer in a nursing home without the expectation of recovery. And it's half the death benefit.
So it's just terminal illness though? No chronic illness, no critical illness?
No, there's no chronic.
Okay.
It's terminal and 90 days in a nursing home.
Okay, I'm going to take back a little bit of my excitement then.
Yeah.
Well, if you think about it though, Ange, the smaller face amounts, it'd be a pretty minor benefit, but yeah, you had to ask.
I had to ask.
I do want to highlight though, part of that, what Justin said, the 90-day confinement is pretty unique on a terminal illness rider. And so most chronic illness riders that would be triggered at 90 days of confinement.
Yep.
And so a lot of carriers don't have that. And that's on all of our products, worksite and individual both.
Wonderful. Wonderful. This has been great. I'm excited about it. You have to keep this stuff. I know when you get to the insurance company level, right, and they're building something in the garage, it's going to be great. But by the time it trickles down all the way down to let's present it to a consumer, sometimes it gets really complicated. So thank you, Cincinnati Life, for giving us something that really is kind of turnkey. Just a couple of things you have to keep in mind when you're talking about this. Other than that, it's on us to help our agents find success in this space. And I think we can do that.
The one thing I would, Angie, to add is take care of your own. We waive the 15-person requirement for any insurance agency that's contracted. And so if you're a 5-person shop, you don't hit the 15, but if you're appointed with Cincinnati Life, we still offer that guaranteed issue. And so, think about it in-house too. And that's what a perfect way to learn the process is to go through it yourself and take care maybe of that unhealthy person in your office or something else that you weren't able to before.
Yeah. Fantastic. Great. That's awesome. If anybody has anything they want to throw in the Q&A or the chat, feel free. Otherwise, I'll give it just a couple of minutes, and we really appreciate we're coming up on the top of the hour, and this has been great. I hope all of you have a wonderful either long 4th of July or a really extended long 4th of July weekend. And we thank you for your time. Thank you for still being a part of the think tank. It's showing a lot of real excitement around the growth of life insurance sales, and we want to continue to support you in that. So appreciate that. Thanks, everyone.
Yep. Thank you both for joining. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for having us.
Thanks.
Take